Good morning. I'd like to bring the February 17th, 2021 Planning Advisory Commission meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is to the rear there this morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'd just like to ask if you would silence all of your cell phones or turn them off, whatever is best for you. And today we're operating under much different circumstances as most meetings are now being held. We have some commissioners that are watching by television or YouTube and will be forwarding questions to me via text. So if I look down at my phone, that's what I'm doing. We will also have citizens calling in via phone with questions and our comments, and the phone number is on the screen. So I just ask that you'll be patient with us as we move these cases forward. Phone number which to call is 706-225-3937, and it should be scrolling there for those that are watching. I remind those in the audience and those watching on television, this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exception requests that are brought before us today. We will first hear a reading of the staff report for the case by planning staff and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request or to inquire about the said request. Commissioners will have time for any needed discussion on the case. Once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be rendered. The case will then go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the City Council with the two independent recommendations. If the Planning Department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the Clerk of Council that they're requesting to be placed on City Council's agenda. The City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting, and that'll be the first reading. Said council shall consider the case, review our recommendation and the Planning Department's recommendations, and then hear discussion on the matter. Council will make a final decision at a second public meeting, and that's going to be called the second reading. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our first agenda item today is to approve the minutes of two previous meetings. We have January, of course, the 20th, and then all the way back to December the 16th. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at those minutes and review them? Are there any changes, questions, comments on either the 16th of December or the 20th of January? I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Please cut on your microphone. Thank you very much.
I have one tiny correction.
Okay.
And the only reason I know is because I was the one that said it last week.
Okay.
Last meeting. On the January meetings,
Okay.
meeting minutes, where it states Commissioner Thomas asked about proposed tenants, that should be Brown.
On which case?
On the one with the cotton company, the United Glass, it's the, if you print out the minutes, it's the third to the last page. Chris Woodruff Cotton Companies, 1230 Broadway, came forward to explain the case.
Okay.
In that paragraph.
Okay, and what needs to be changed?
It said Commissioner Thomas asked about proposed tenants, and it should be Brown.
Commissioner Brown, okay.
That's me.
Okay, that's you.
That's me.
I can, okay. Can we make that change?
We can. It'll be updated.
All right. Any other changes? So I'll consider the minutes accepted with that change. All right. All right, if you'll take a look at your agenda, our first case, rezoning case, REZN 01210123, and this is a request to rezone 0.30 acres of land located at 2103 Hurd Street. Current zoning is RMF1, residential multifamily 1. Proposed zoning is GC, general commercial. The proposed use is office. Lionel Reynolds is the applicant. The property is located in Council District 3, Huff. And we'll hear from our planning staff first on this case.
Yes, sir. The general land use is consistent in planning area D. Current land use designation is multifamily, futures general commercial. It is compatible with the existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to an issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. Property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 38 trips. If used for commercial usage, the level of service will remain at a level B. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for commercial usage. There'll be no school impact. The site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the RMF1 zoning district. The three options under Category C are, number one, 20 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet. 2, 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet in a wood fence or a masonry wall, or 30 feet undisturbed natural buffer. No Fort Benning recommendation, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning, the north side is RMF1, south is GC, east is RMF1, west is SFR4. 60 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received 2 calls in opposition regarding the rezoning, and there's no additional information.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Renfro. Commissioners, y'all have any questions of planning regarding this case at this point? Anyone? All right. The applicant, Lionel Reynolds, are you present? Will you please come up to the microphone and tell us what your plans are with this property, please, sir? And first state your name and address for the record.
Hello, good morning. My name is Lionel Reynolds. The address is 2360 Patty Avenue, Columbus, Georgia.
Okay. So tell us what you're thinking about doing here.
I want to make it my office. I'm licensed and insured. Name of my company is Blessed Hands Painting Company, and I owned the company for like 5 years and been successful. So basically, want to make it my office and wanted it commercial, for that purpose right there.
I got you. Okay. All right. You have any employees that'll work out of there, or is it just going to be you basically?
At the very moment, it'll be me. We're just starting off right now.
Right.
Yeah, to get the things going.
Okay.
Yeah, but be some changes then that could be possible in the future. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you know in the future how many employees that you will be hiring?
It determines how business pick up and things in that nature right there. Like with some jobs, I may need other contractors and things like that, working on big projects. Ma'am?
But there won't be a lot of traffic coming in and out of your facility, right? Of your place?
It'll be, of course, it'll be some people that'll come, of course, but as far as like a whole lot of traffic, no, ma'am, I don't see it like a whole lot of traffic like that.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I've
sir.
got a piece of property within 2,000 feet, so after conferring with Mr. Renfro, I'm going to recuse myself
Okay.
from this
You want to
case.
just
I'm going to
step
step
back
out.
in the
Yeah.
back. That'll be fine. All right. Thank you. All right. Commissioners, do y'all have any other commissions?
I have a question. Are you planning on putting up any signage or to advertise your business?
I think that it'll be nice to put a sign out saying the name of the company, because as far as right now, no one knows that I'll be right there. So, yes, I would like to put a sign out. Of course, I will, to let them know that this is where this company location at. And, of course, I had to change my letterhead on my paperwork with dealing with companies here in Columbus and their area, as far as the address of where my location is.
Is there regulations on the
Yes.
size and stuff like that?
There is. It would be regulated.
It
He
would be regulated as per the sign ordinance.
Right.
And-
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's
city.
right there on the corner.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Commissioners? Yes, sir.
I want to know about the storage of supplies. You say you're a paint company.
Yes.
What have you put in place for like supplies and how you gonna keep it safe and things
Okay,
of that nature?
I haven't put anything in place yet. First, I want to come through the process of the meeting, which is what we're having now. But my plan is to put like a shed, you know, a modern shed, updated, nice shed, to house anything that I may need for like supplies and things of that nature, what you're speaking on.
Okay.
Does that satisfy you? Yes, sir.
I guess it would be to Mr. Renfro. Does it have to be general commercial, the rezoning for this type of business?
Not if he's just using it as an office, no. But that's what he brought forward to request, so that's what he'd like to move forward with.
Yes, and it's for like future reference as well, you know, just in case things changes, things like that. So I would want it to be general commercial. That's why I applied for it as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And also, if I can add, if
Yes,
it's no
sir.
problem, the property was once a beauty salon in the past, and I think that is on record. And also, it was a daycare center as well. So, you know, in the past, you know, it has been commercial before. It was commercial before, went to family residential. So that's why I'm here to take it back to commercial. So it has been commercial before.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. Yes, sir, you can have a
All right,
seat. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for this case? Please come forward at this time. And if there's it, yes, ma'am. You need to come to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Shahid. I live at 1024 King Place Drive, and I own the property at 2118 Hurd Street. I would like to ask that in the Planning Commission's decision on rezoning this property, if you look at GW Pest Control across the street, which is currently zoned general commercial, one of the caveats it has is that if the business ever closes, the property returns to a residential zoning. And so that is what I'd like to ask happen in this case, if we decide to move, or the panel decides to move forward with the zoning of general commercial.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Renfro, now that can be added to the stipulations, correct?
It can be, yes, sir.
Okay.
And normally there's a timer, a time limit on that. So say he's closed for 6 months or a year, then it reverts back to that, and you can decide how long you would like that to be.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience like to speak for or against this? Please come forward at this time. All right. That said, I open the floor up for a motion on this case, Commissioners, and bear in mind that that request. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bollinger?
In the case of REZN 01210123, request to rezone .3 acres of land located at 2103 Hurd Street. Current zoning is RMF1. Proposed zoning is GC. Proposed use is office. I make a recommendation that we approve with the stipulation that should the property be vacated for 1 year, that it would revert back.
Okay. And we have all right. We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor to accept this rezoning change, please raise your right hand. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And we have an approval from Mr. Dudley as well, so it is totally approved. All right, next case. Case number REZN 01210124. Request to rezone 0.82 acres of land located at 1018th Street. Current zoning is GC, General Commercial. Proposed zoning is NC, Neighborhood Commercial with conditions. Proposed use is pharmacy. Austin Gower is the applicant. This property is located in Council District 7, Mimi Woodson, and we'll hear from our staff first on this case.
Yes, sir. The general land use is consistent in planning area D. Current land use designation is general commercial. Future is office and professional. It is compatible with existing land uses. The property does not lie with the floodway or floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to an issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. Property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 111 trips if used for commercial usage. The level of surface will remain a level B. This site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for commercial usage. There'll be no school impact. The site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the RMF, RO zoning districts. Those three options under Category C are 20 feet with a certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees, shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, 10 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet, and a wood fence or masonry wall, 30 feet undisturbed natural buffer. No Fort Benning recommendation, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning to the north is RO, south is RO, east RMF2, west is RO. The attitude of the property owners: 35 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received no calls and/or emails regarding the rezoning. As far as additional information, it wasn't included in the staff report, but this was brought up when the case, I guess it's been a couple of months now, for the bank that is close to that was going to be rezoned for a gas station, a convenience store and gas station. That was declined by council. Mr. Gower said that he would downgrade his property from general commercial to neighborhood commercial to better fit the neighborhood. He chose neighborhood commercial with the condition of no convenience store, so that he wouldn't, to abide by that.
All right, good enough. All right, Commissioners, y'all have any questions of planning regarding this case? All right. No one? Okay, the applicant would please come forward. Is Mr. Gower here?
Council said that he wasn't going to be required to be here, so I guess technically we're the applicant at this point. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. We've done this before. I'd like to make a comment that Mr. Dudley had brought up here on a text from him, who's watching by internet. If I can get it to pull up here, let's see. He was okay with the condition to no establish, as long as there was establishment that did not sell alcoholic beverage and no convenience stores, and I think that's been addressed here, no convenience store permitted, so.
Okay, and we can add no alcohol sales as the second condition if needed.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir, Mr. Brandon?
Can you explain to me again, though, about the applicant not being here? Because we've always required the applicant, I just hate we've told other folks and push off their cases when they didn't show up.
Right. In this case, when Austin Gower was at the council meeting for that particular meeting where they stated, would you downgrade? They told him basically that the city would take care of it and move it forward, and he wouldn't be required to be at the meetings.
But that was for the adjacent property, correct? Not this property.
It's for this property. He was at the meeting for that property because he was in opposition of it being rezoned to general commercial, which is why it turned into him saying, well, your property's already general commercial, and then he offered to downgrade the property or downzone it.
But that was for I guess what I'm saying is as you look at the banks from the front, there's the one on the left and the one on the right.
Right.
That was for a discussion on the one on the right. I'm not trying to cause issues. I just hate that we tell applicants they better be here or we push their case.
Right.
And this is for a different piece of property, not the one that was at discussion of the council meeting.
It is. This is a completely different case with a different applicant and different everything.
I mean,
So,
I guess I should just point out, we've kicked other applicants to the next meeting when they don't show up. I understand the council's, I guess, given some direction, but just for purposes of pointing out.
That's fine, that's fine. I understand. All right, Commissioners, I ask you, is it okay to go ahead and move forward with this case and
I'm very concerned about the precedent we're setting here, that this is a different piece of property.
Yeah, I thought it was like, this is the Wells Fargo building, and the other one was the CB&T building, correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong.
And the previous one, I believe, was the CB&T building that they came
Or
before this
Synovus
committee. And they've not been in before this committee for this particular piece of property. I'm concerned about that precedent that,
All right, so do you make a motion that we move this case to the next meeting so the applicant can be present or should be present? Is that a motion?
I believe so.
I mean, and consistent with what we've done to other citizens
Okay.
of this community, which is if they didn't attend, we kick their case to the next meeting. I mean, this is if you might thread a needle and say, well, it's the Synovus building, so we've already kind of heard it. We've not heard this piece of property. And personally, I don't think this will be fine. It's a pharmacy next to the hospital. It sounds like a good idea to me, but I'm just not, we've done this to other citizens. I think it's right by our
Right,
precedent.
so are you proposing a motion that we move this case to the next meeting and require the applicant to be present?
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
Now second it.
And a second, okay. All those in favor for the motion, raise your right hand. Okay, we're going to move this case to the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, we move on to the next case. REZN 01210125. This is a request to rezone 7.68 acres of land located at 2925 Manchester Expressway. Current zoning is GC, General Commercial. Proposed zoning is LMI, Light Manufacturing Industrial. Proposed use is Fulfillment Distribution Center. Icarus Manufacturing Industrial. The proposed use is Fulfillment Distribution Center. Icarus Manufacturing Industrial, Alternative Investment is the applicant. The property is located in Council District 5, and Charmaine Crabb is the counselor, and we'll hear from planning staff first on this case.
Yes, sir. General land use is inconsistent in planning area A. Current land use designation is general commercial. Future land use is general commercial. It is compatible with the existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to an issuance of a site development permit. If a permit is required, property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will decrease by 126 trips. If used for industrial use, the level of service will remain at a level B. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for industrial usage. There's no school impact, no buffer requirements, no Fort Benning recommendation, no DRI recommendation. The surrounding zoning, north is LMI, south is GC, east is GC, west is Interstate 185. 20 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received no calls and or emails regarding the rezoning. As far as additional information, before Best Buy owned this property, it was LMI. They rezoned it to general commercial. So technically, while the airport is city-owned, its underlying zoning is LMI. So there's LMI very close by.
Okay, yeah, and it was LMI when it was Connect's.
Okay.
I believe, but first, yes,
All right.
before Best Buy purchased the building. All right, Commissioners, do you have any questions of planning staff before we move forward? Anyone? All right. All right, well, we'll hear from the applicant, and if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Glad to. My name is George Mize. I'm with the law firm of Page Cranham, 1111 Bay Avenue. I'm here representing your applicant, Icarus Alternative Investments. I had to say that several times. The way I remember it is
Thank you.
Icarus Dickarus Dock. I mean, I don't know how that came up, but anyway, Icarus is a real estate investment firm, and their primary focus is what they do is they repurpose older commercial developments. They redo them, redevelop them, and update them and turn them into high-quality commercial developments. Icarus was founded in 2016. Icarus's owner is Alex Oliver, and he's been in this business since about 2012, and since that time, he's acquired more than 2 million Class A office, suburban office, and industrial assets, and Alex is here with me today. As John said, we're seeking to rezone about 7.7 acres of land located at the northeast corner of the intersection of I-185 and Manchester Expressway from GC to its prior classification of LMI. This is the old Best Buy property, and the purpose of rezoning is to repurpose and redevelop this deteriorating and vacant building and turn it into a last-mile distribution or fulfillment center. The proposed development and use is consistent and compatible with surrounding land uses. As you can see to the north and northeast, the light purple designates LMI. We have LMI classification. That is the airport, but it also houses a number of supporting and related businesses. To the east, in red, there's a major commercial property known as Peachtree Mall, as y'all are all aware, and many of those out parcels to the south and west are major arterial highways, I-185 to the west, and to the south is Manchester Expressway. And as you can see along the south side of Manchester Expressway, there's a fair amount of LMI there as well. And as John mentioned too, historically, this property was zoned LMI when it housed Connect Dairies and later Parmalat before it was rezoned GC to house Best Buy. My client's plan, again, is to repurpose the existing and vacant Best Buy building into a last-mile distribution and fulfillment center. ICRA specializes in this type of development. I've got several photographs or renderings of developments that they're in the process of doing or that they've already done. The first one here is an abandoned dealership that they're turning into a Lyft driver support center. We're in the middle of this one. We have a couple of renderings showing you what this will look like when it gets finished as an exterior rendering, and this is an interior rendering. The next slide is a 1980s vintage office complex that has been updated. It's been repainted. It's been opened up. And we now refer to it as a millennial working hub. And I think that's probably indicative of the update that they do. The next one is an old single-story warehouse facility that now has been updated and is a fully leased office complex. And what Alex will do is he'll take this vacant building, he'll turn it into a vibrant business. He'll give it a substantial facelift, which will include repainting, rebranding, and some landscaping. As John said, the proposed property is serviced by all public facilities and infrastructure. There'll be no additional requirement for the city or any additional investment on the city's part, nor will there be any negative impact to those facilities or infrastructure, nor will there be any negative impact to traffic. To address some possible traffic concerns, we engaged Vern Wilburn of Maldino and Wilburn, someone who is very familiar to your planning department, to do a trip generation study. And what we wanted him to do is to compare the trip generation that the proposed use would generate and compare it to what it was as a Best Buy. And as you can see from this table, the last mile distribution center will create 368 trips versus the 1,847 that were generated by Best Buy. So you have less than 20% of the traffic generated by the proposed use over the prior use. And if you remember back on the site plan, there was a proposed expansion or a possible expansion of about 21,000 square feet. And even with that expansion, the total trips generated about 542 or 30%, less than 30% of what the traffic was generated by Best Buy without the expansion. And I will say the site plan shows an expansion, but that site plan is exactly like the site plan that Best Buy had showing an expansion that never occurred. But just wanted you to see that when you compare apples to apples, will generate substantially less traffic. This rezone will also have a very positive economic impact to the city. We anticipate creating numerous construction jobs during about a 6-month refurbishment process, together with a substantial increase in business for local suppliers, subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, and others that support the construction industry. And then once the distribution center is up and running, we anticipate creating over 100 permanent jobs. Development will also provide a substantial and significant increase in the tax base for ad valorem tax purposes, again providing a substantial economic return to the city without adversely affecting any existing infrastructure or requiring any additional investment on the city's part. We anticipate increasing property taxes by over 50%. There'll also be a substantial increase in sales tax receipts in connection with the purchase and sale of millions of dollars of construction material. We believe our rezoning request and application meet all the requirements for rezoning. The LMI classification is certainly consistent and compatible with surrounding land uses. All public facilities and infrastructure are located at the site. There'll be no negative impact to those facilities and infrastructure, nor will there be any negative impact to traffic. We believe this development will be a great benefit to the community in terms of job creation and tax revenue generation. Therefore, we respectfully request you approve our application and you recommend approval to council. We'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mize. How many employees do they feel like they would start, or is there any plans at this point? Is this one they're creating to lease, or is it they already have a tenant?
The contract, the property is under contract
Okay.
for purchase. One of the conditions, of course, to the completion of the purchase is the rezoning. Once it is rezoned and the contract, the property is purchased, assuming we get it rezoned. Once it's rezoned and the property is purchased, then it will be leased to the company that will be operating the last mile distribution center.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Commissioners, do y'all have any other questions of Mr. Mize? No. Anyone? Yes, sir, Mr. Bollinger.
So with 100 employees, then, so 200 of those 542 trips will be the employees coming and going from the workplace, is that,
I assume so. I mean,
okay? The remaining trips, I'm assuming those are going to be larger trucks, though, not vehicles that were going to Best Buy. Is that, do we know what
That-
kind of vehicles?
I don't know the exact type of vehicles. You see them around town. They're larger vans. The heavy trucks would come in and out, early in the morning, most likely.
Okay.
But the vehicles you're talking about, those vans you see, FedEx-sized vans.
Right.
Is what I would envision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let me make sure Mr. Dudley, no, he has no questions on my text here. All right, thank you, Mr. Mize.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak for this case? Please come forward at this time. And if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak against this case, please come forward at this time, and no one's moving. So with that, I open the floor up for a motion, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll do it, Ralph.
Mr.
In
Derby?
reference to REZN 01210125, a request to rezone 7.6 acres of land located at 2925 Manchester Expressway. Current zoning is general commercial. Proposed zoning is light manufacturing and industrial. The proposed use is a fulfillment distribution center. Icarus Alternative Investment is the applicant. The property is located in Council District 5, Crab. I recommend we approve it.
Okay, we have a recommendation for approval. Do we have a second? We have a second from Mr. Bollinger, several of us. All right, any discussion? All those in favor to approve this, please raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much, even Mr. Dudley. Okay. All right, last case today, and this will be a text amendment. And it would be REZN 01213244. This is a request for a text amendment to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, in regards to amending Table 3.1.1 and Chapter 13 pertaining to cannabis. All right. We'll hear from our planning department on this one first, please.
Okay. This is a request to amend the text of the UDO for medical cannabis operations. Number one, explanation of revisions, amend Table 3.1.1 by permitting the following uses in the following districts. Medical cannabis dispensaries would be permitted in UPT, CRD, NC, and general commercial. And then indoor cannabis growing facilities would be permitted in LMI and HMI. All legal cannabis-related activity oversight falls under the Georgia Access and Medical Cannabis Commission. The GMCC and their partners oversees all aspects of the medical cannabis growth and distribution for the state of Georgia. Number two, explanation of revisions, amend Chapter 13 definitions by adding a definition for fuel stations. That's incorrect and has been updated. That would be for cannabis, medical cannabis dispensary and indoor cannabis grow facility. Just a little background. This is all coming from the state. It's similar to how breweries were handled in the past. We just basically have to change our UDO and with a text amendment to allow it, and then they govern it. And so that's basically what's happening now. We're just trying to stay in front of that before people come forward and request it.
Okay. Commissioners, y'all have any questions regarding this UDO change here? Anyone? Is anyone in the audience would like to speak on this? I need to ask that because we do have one remaining. All right, if there's no questions, open the floor up for a motion. Yes, sir.
I'll do it.
Mr. Brandon?
If you don't mind. In the case of REZN-01-21-3244, request to amend the text of the UDO, specifically amend Table 3.1.1 by permitting the use of medical cannabis dispensary permitted in UPT, CRD, NC, and GC, and permitted use of indoor cannabis grow facilities in LMI and HMI, and to amend Chapter 13 definitions by adding the definition for medical cannabis dispensary and indoor cannabis grow facility as described in the staff report. I move that we recommend approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation for approval. Do we have a second? Have a second? Yes, ma'am. And any discussion? All those in favor to approve this amendment, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. I thank you very much this morning for your attention and time, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor serving with you. Do we have any new business that we need to talk about? How about next meeting? What have we got on the agenda?
Right now, the next meeting is going to be on the 3rd. I guess there'll be 2 cases now, including the one that was postponed.
Okay, so we'll be moving that one forward, and the applicant should be represented at that meeting. Do we have any old business we need to discuss?
We do not.
All right, none that I know of. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we are adjourned.